Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Well, happy Monday evening, folks. Welcome to the Intrepid Radio Program. I am your host, Scotty Roberts, and this here is my show. You can hear it here on my YouTube channel, over on my Facebook pages, multiple, over on X, and also on my Instagram account for now, soon to be on Rocky Stucci's network, and also over back on Odyssey Radio, which is reorganizing their station right now as we speak. Welcome to the program, and I'm glad that you could make it in. I see a whole lot of you out there, so don't be afraid of the chat room. If you want to come in, join everybody else that's going to be here in the chat room, and we'll bring you in, well, not during the show, but after the bulk of the show. We open it up for the captain's cabin, and you can come in and comment all you'd like. We may open you up to some callers to our special guest tonight. So those of you who are listening over on other outlets, come on over and you can join us in the chat room over on the YouTube page. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And we'll see you over here. So tonight, I'm going to just jump right into it rather than do a lot of my introductory BS that I like to do. We're going to jump in because I've got a special guest tonight that I want you to meet. My first time meeting him was by phone today. And so this is going to be the first real substantive conversation I've had with him, is going to be this here radio program. And so it is, as you can see by that banner, which is up right now, it's Glenn Baker. And we've got a subtitle that we grabbed from his website, The Unwavering Spirit from Soldier to Country Singer. So we're going to bring him in just a couple of minutes here, but I want to give you a little introduction as to who Glenn Baker is. And so I am going to take down the banner for tonight, and we'll put up our own little proscenium arch, which I like to have up from time to time. There we go. And so welcome everybody to the show. Let's get into who Glenn Baker is and why we've got him on tonight. And he's going to fill in a lot of the why we've got him on tonight. So Glenn Baker, I took the tagline from his website, from soldier to country singer. He is the unwavering spirit that we're talking about tonight. We're going to look at his spirit. We're going to dive into the incredible life of Glenn Baker. He's got a compelling story. I heard a little bit of it today earlier, of entrepreneurship, resilience, and the pursuit of passion. And from serving our country in Desert Storm to topping the country music charts, Glenn's journey is a testament to the American spirit of freedom, of patriotism, and of liberty. Right now, Rocky Stucci, who you all know very well, is working with Glenn on some production work, and Glenn will fill us in a little bit on that. If you've been following Rocky Stucci on his social media, you've seen some of what he's been doing. But tonight we're going to really talk to Glenn about his soldier's journey into entrepreneurship. After honorably serving in the Army, Glenn joined his father's business, a foundry business. They created a multi-million-dollar empire that provided jobs for hundreds in the local community. There were economic challenges. He went out on his own, did some other things. He'll tell us about that. And he's all about rebuilding lives now, one song at a time. Glenn's passion for music eventually led him to Florida, where he organized a sales team. And in the post-Hurricane Wilma recovery efforts, he worked while rebuilding homes and communities. He rebuilt his own life. And so now he has gone to this return to the heartbeat of music. In 2019, the melodic call of Nashville became undeniable for him. And we're going to have you listen to what he has to say about how he returned to the music scene. He penned songs. He collaborated with remarkable talents. And his poignant performance at fundraiser for wounded veterans under General Michael Flynn's auspices, ignited a new mission to use his musical gift to support his wounded brothers. And so let's get into just talking to Glenn Baker right now. I'm going to bring him up on the stage right now. We might have to get rid of some of the extra fluff around the window here, but here he is. Glenn, welcome to the program.
Scotty, how you doing, young man?
I am doing all right, sir. Thank you for calling me young.
What you made me want to meet me. I think I like you.
All right. Well, good. Let's have you make everybody else want to meet you and listen to your music.
Let's have a good time with it.
Let's do it. Now, first of all, just to introduce what you're doing with Rocky Stucci, because most of this audience knows Rocky pretty well.
Right.
Because as you know, Rocky and I used to do radio together, and he was on a few weeks ago. So let me hear from you what exactly you're working on with Rocky. I know Nancy Planetta is involved as well to some extent. She's been a friend of mine, by the way, for probably older than you've been alive. So,
I don't know about that, man. I got a little bit of gray in my beard.
well, for as young, let me amend that. As young as Nancy is, I've known her for many years.
Gotcha.
So let's get your take on what's going on with you and Rocky, and let's start with that so people have an idea of why you're here tonight.
Well, if you know Rocky, and you do, and many of your listeners do, this is going to come as a surprise to you because it actually came as a surprise to Rocky. But Rocky is a godsend for me. I've been working on my own. Since God put this fire back in my heart about 5 years ago, everything I've done on my own, from self-funding to self-promoting to self-building, and pretty much did okay for not knowing what in the crud I was doing after being out of the music world for 19 years. But it comes to a point where you can't do it yourself anymore. It's either going to grow or it's going to die. And I was sitting in my recliner about 6 weeks ago, had just been introduced to Rocky over the phone by a gentleman named Sean Weissman. Okay. And so had cut a deal with Rocky to build me a website, do a little bit of social media work for me. And then I was working on getting ready to film a music video for a new song that I've written called Soldier Strong. Now, Scotty, I'm sitting in my recliner, me and God's having a conversation. I'm getting ready to hire this dude in Georgia to film and edit. But then I think about it. I've got to go find all these locations. I've got to hire extras. I've got to get actors. I've got to do permits. I got to get, and I want it to be great. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And God kind of just whispered to me, he said, take this hat off and put it on somebody else. And I made a phone call. And within 24 hours, I had a movie production team with extras, with crews, with soldiers to fight the battle scene. And then Rocky and I had a chat. He said, man, let me come with you. Let me film the behind the scenes. Well, that turned into going beyond filming behind the scenes of a music video to now actually filming a full-fledged feature film documentary. So that's what we're working on together right now, is a documentary entitled Finish This Fight, Diary of a Pissed Off American Soldier.
Talk to me about that phrase. I have a great theological background. That's what I did in my younger days, went to seminary and all that. I was in ministry. Fighting the fight, fighting the good fight was something we always talked about. Talk to me about what that means to you. Fight this fight. What do you mean by that?
Finish this fight. See, when we go in as a soldier, we go to MEP station. They check us out, make sure we're qualified to even serve. And once that part's over, we go stand in front of a soldier, whether that's an officer or a senior enlisted, and they bring out the oath of office. So basically the soldier's oath, and we raise our right hands and we do solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, guarding and defending against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And it goes on. And the thing is, there's no ending to that oath that we take. It doesn't stop when we're discharged. That's an oath that if you're going to serve your country, you take that into your spirit and it's always there. So finish this fight. I served 6 years. It was approximately 8 or 9 months in the desert during Desert Storm back in 1990 and 91. But that service that's inside of me never went away. And through some of the things that you and I talked about earlier today, I came to a point where I lost my freedom in 2017. And from that taking place, as I was recovering from that, I woke up one day and realized this is not the country that I fought for. And I needed to do something about it before we lose it. So for me personally, finish this fight is, let's bring our people together. Let's bring our soldiers together. Let's take a stand and not lose this thing we call freedom. For other soldiers, it's going to be similar, but probably in some cases a little different. There was a different something that happened. Everybody that I know that's in this thing, Scotty, has had some kind of a wake-up call. And so each one of these folks that I'm interviewing, including Colonel Allen West and Chad Prather, and we'll be talking with General Flynn again this week, and several. We've got several bigger names from the military that are involved have told me the same thing. There comes to a point where they say, when did this happen? And how do we fix it? So this is simply finish this fight, the fight that we were oathed to take and to take on.
I will tell you too, a couple of more than 2 decades ago, I was working for a short time at a radio station in south of Minneapolis, and we had Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North came in and to speak on the radio, to do a show with somebody there, and he was in town, so he came in. I got a chance to meet him face to face, and I'm not one that melts down in front of celebrity or famous people, but I got to tell you, I faced him. I almost got tears in my eyes just thanking him and telling him, you are a personal hero of mine. I lived through the whole, I don't know if you're as old as this, but I remember distinctly working and watching all the hearings when Oliver North was in front of the Senate and all of that back in the 80s. So
I ran Contra.
What's that?
I ran Contra. Yep.
Yes.
I graduated high school in 1985, so I was apparently watching all of it.
All right. Well, you're not too far behind me. I was 78, so there you go.
Okay, well, you got me by a few.
We're close
Or
enough.
you graduated really young, one or the other.
Yeah, I graduated very young. I was a child prodigy.
That's what I thought.
There it is. So now let's then get into what brought you. Now you say that the music was continuing to call for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a lot of story in between the military and in between hitting the top of the charts and in country western music. So let me ask you, when you say getting back and the music called to you or it kept calling to you, were you in music, in country western music prior to? Was this something that was just growing and you said, I've got to pursue this?
I'll tell you that story. When I shipped out to Desert Storm, it was November the 15th, 1990. It was my 4th wedding anniversary. And I packed my duffel bag, and in the bottom, I put my Bible. And I made a promise to God. We've been told there's going to be 30% casualties. Just expect it. It's going to happen. And I made a promise to God to seek him and to get close to him while I was over there. And 8 months goes by, I come back, I unpack my duffel bag, and that Bible was exactly where I had put it when I left 8 months before. And boy, it hit me in my chest. And God began to work on me, and he began to call me. And I felt a calling in my life, and I just didn't know what it was. When I graduated high school, I had an opportunity to either go to college on a wrestling scholarship or go to college on a vocal scholarship. And I didn't want to be a sissy singer. So I went and wrestled, and that went real well until my shoulders just kept coming down to my chest, separated them many times. Got married at a very young age, got married just 2 months after I turned 19. So 4 years go by, I go to Desert Storm, we get out, God's calling me, I begin to pursue music. But it was in the Southern gospel music world. So I was raised in a Southern Baptist home, great mom and dad. Man, my mom and dad were godly people, godliest people probably that I know. But the Southern Baptist world, unbeknownst to me, is a very legalistic type of a raising. And I'm not telling you're bad people. I don't mean that at all. It's just very legalistic. And it's not what I have found to be the entire way that I think God has intended for us, because he wants a relationship with us, not us walking in legalism and fear. But he called me to sing. And so I put together a Southern gospel quartet in Oklahoma, where I was growing up. And I went to Nashville, and I sat down on a piano bench next to Ben Spear, and Ben taught me how to sing baritone. And so I started working that world, and I've done shows with the Florida Boys and the Dixie Melody Boys and the Dove Brothers and even the Cathedrals years ago.
I remember the Cathedrals.
Oh yeah, that was something there, buddy. I'm telling you, George Yonts could hit a low note and then make you laugh like a girl. He was a good dude. But that went for 10 years. And in 03, I began to have some marital problems. And again, as a Southern Baptist, when you're going through marital problems that are leading to a divorce,
you keep going if you're Southern Baptist. Yeah.
Well, you hang up your microphone because they don't want you in the pulpit.
Right.
And that's what I did. I hung my microphone up. I sold my sound system back in 2003, and I thought I'd never sing again. And by 05, I was out in Florida, and by 06, I was divorced. And truthfully, Scotty, I went buck wild for a little while. Never had a wild period in my life, and I went buck wild for a while.
You know, we used to call that the divorce crazies. When I
would
was,
agree.
I was divorced. I was in ministry. I was dealing with men's ministries in an evangelical free church, and went through some problems with my wife, and we eventually got divorced. But my pastor, very lovingly, kind, he wasn't mean about it or anything. He said, Scotty, why don't you take a little break from doing this till things get settled? And it wasn't so verboten in the church I was in, but it was something that you tried to work on. So I get it. I know where you're coming from. And then you get divorced. What happens? You're like a 19-year-old kid again.
Mm-hmm. And this time I had money. Yeah, I was making great money down here, and which maybe wasn't a good thing. Half of it went to the divorce, the other half went to partying, and that lasted a good year and a half. And God began to draw me back to Him. Was in another relationship. Was a relationship that was rocky for a lot of years, but He began to draw me to Him. In 2012, that relationship was kind of on the rocks, and there's a whole story behind that, and someday I'll share all of that with people. But in 2012, I had the opportunity to go to North Carolina. A buddy of mine was building a new business with a pastor up there, and they were starting a log home company. And I didn't know anything about log homes, but I know I can sell anything. And so I decided to give him 90 days, and I would go up there and help him while we were working on our relationship here. And so I went to Charlotte, North Carolina, actually a little north of that, a little place called Kannapolis. And I began to sell for him, and we're talking to my girl at the time every day, and building and building and building. And 90 days goes by, and she's like, I'm going to go live with my sister in New York for a while. I'm not ready. And so I decided at that point I'm going to stay in North Carolina. I come back, I close my home down, and I find out she'd been cheating the whole time.
Oh boy, that
I was gone. So broke me inside. I'd never loved a woman like this. Not even my wife before. I'd never loved like this. Broke me. And unfortunately, she had been sexually abused as a child until she was 14. So there was a brokenness there for her as well.
Sure.
But I went back and I worked for 2 years. And within a few months, I owned that log home company. I bought it from both of those partners and was building and doing pretty good. Paying it off. I was paying it on payments to the pastor that owned the mill, building log homes. And that went on for a couple of years. And I really got to the point where I wasn't enjoying it. I learned it. I've never been afraid to try. I was doing okay, but I wasn't enjoying it. And I ended up turning it back to that pastor. Gave him 3 clients that I'd gotten pre-approved to build, came back to Florida. And this young lady and I were trying to work and rebuild this relationship. And that was in July of 2014. So I came back and I began to rebuild my life insurance business, and was doing okay. She was where she was. I was where I was, growing my life. 3 years go by. And in July of 2017, Scotty, I got a knock on my door at 4 p.m. And I opened the door with nothing but a pair of shorts on. I was getting ready to run through the shower and go talk to some clients. And there was 10 cops and a SWAT team. And I'm kind of smiling. So what can I do for you guys? And they're like, well, we just had a call of a domestic disturbance here. I said, well, that's kind of odd because I live alone. He said, oh man, it just happens. Have you got an ID so we can get this over and, we get out of your hair? And I'm like, yeah, here's my ID. He said, oh, you're Glenn Baker? I said, yeah. He said, you know what? Come on out. Let's just ask you a few questions. We'll get on our way.
Warning. When they ask you to step outside.
But see, I've never been in trouble. I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Didn't know it. And the moment I stepped outside, I'm against a wall and handcuffed. No Miranda, just handcuffed. You're under arrest. Well, what is this for? We don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, it's an out-of-state warrant. We don't know what it is. We're just here to pick you up. So I end up in Fort Lauderdale, Broward County Jail, which if anybody's watched Cops, bad boys,
yeah,
it happens a lot in Fort Lauderdale, man.
sure.
And I was celled that evening in about, I don't know, probably a 10 by 10. It may have been littler, may have been a little bigger, but with about 14 gangbangers getting processed. And by 11 o'clock that night, I was taken to the main jail. They gave me a 2-inch mattress to throw on the concrete floor. And I said, what's going on? We don't know. It's an out-of-state warrant. I think, okay, it's tough. I'll sleep it out. Well, I didn't sleep, obviously, but got up the next morning and the first officer came by. What's going on? Why am I here? Well, I don't know, but let me look into it. Came back and said, all I can tell you is an out-of-state warrant. It's the name of the charge is receiving property under a false pretense. I said, what does that mean? He said, I don't know. It could be anything. It could be pawn shops or so. I have no answers. Well, I don't have any numbers to call anybody. You know, cell phones are they're called smartphones, but they make us dumb. And I had no numbers memorized. Well, they wouldn't even let me get a number. They didn't let me see an attorney. I couldn't call an attorney. I didn't see a judge for 8 days.
8 days?
8 days I did not see a judge. On the 8th day, I'm shackled hand and foot, taken to the courthouse where I'm in front of a judge. And he tells me, this is what's going on. We've got an out-of-state warrant. I don't know what it's for. You got a choice. You can deny extradition. You'll be here at least 60 days. Or you can agree to extradition. You'll be here maybe 45 days before they come get you. I said, well, I want to know what's going on. If I'm going to be here anyway, let's get this thing done. By the way, they won't let me use my cell phone. He's like, what do you mean? They won't let me use my cell phone to get any numbers. He said, I never heard anything like that. They said, yeah, it requires a court order. He said, I'm not writing a court order. I've never written a court order for anything like that. Well, the bailiff took pity on me. And he went behind the judge and said, hey, listen, write this guy a court order. What's it going to hurt? So I got a court order on the 8th day to access my cell phone. And that's exactly what it said.
Wow.
To access that cell phone. On the 9th day, they've got the court order. They came back to me and said, you can't access your cell phone. It's dead, and we're not going to charge it.
We're not going to charge it for you.
Yep. So I spent 23 days in Broward County Jail, not knowing why I was there. I was extradited to North Carolina. I sat in the back of a van for 48 hours, handcuffed and shackled to my feet, before I got to Salisbury, Rowan County, North Carolina, where I found that this former pastor that I turned the business back over to embezzled $22,000 from one of the clients that I'd given him 7 months after I left the state and told him that I did it. And I had no idea it even happened. And that was 3 years before.
Did you say something like, and you couldn't just tell me this the day you arrested me?
They didn't know by the arrest warrant. All they knew was out of state until I got up there. But if they'd have let me see an attorney, I would have found out. However, no attorney. So I find out what it is. I'm like, okay, we'll get this handled. There's no evidence that I did it because I had no idea it even took place. 51 days more.
51 more days.
51 more days.
23?
On top of the 23.
If I do my math right, that's like
you're
almost 100.
Almost 74 full 24-hour days.
Wow.
A week before I got out, I caught an infection, Scotty. That infection went into my right testicle, swelled up like an orange. I get on the kiosk to ask for a nurse. No medical. The next day I get on the kiosk to ask for medical. No medical. This went on for 6 days. The 7th day, it goes into my right ear. I get on the kiosk. I'm begging for medical. Finally, a nurse sees me, looks at my ear, says, oh, here's an antibiotic. We'll give you another one tomorrow. That same day, my attorney tells me, Glenn, here's what's going on. You're going to be here probably another year and a half. They have no evidence against you, nothing that you even knew about it, but they're not ready to let you go. It'll probably take about 6 months. At that point, what they'll probably do is offer you a plea bargain. If you plead not guilty, you'll be here another year waiting on a trial. Or you can give us $25,000 and we'll let you go.
Oh, it's always money.
I didn't have access to it. I was alone in Fort Lauderdale. And even had I not been, I didn't have 25 grand laying around at that point. So I looked him in the eye and I said, listen, you've done such a good job for me. I want the name and number of this DA now. And I've got my sister's number. I will three-way her in. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Scotty, the next morning he came back in with a piece of paper and said, here, sign here. And I walked out of that jail on my signature.
Now, did you actually get to talk to the DA or did you?
Nope.
So
he got it. Walked out on my signature.
I got to tell you, as my own audience knows, some of this is a little deja vu-ish to me. It didn't last 74 days, but I got to tell you, if it had, I'd have been looking for legal reparations after I got out. I mean, what did you do at that point? Did you say, all right, county, whatever counties, you're in trouble now?
Well, that's what I said in my head. But at that point, I was ready to get the heck out of there.
Just ready to get out. Didn't want to give them any reason to hold you.
No. So I got on a train at 4:30 on a Thursday afternoon. I got back to Fort Lauderdale at 10:30 Friday night. I found that I already knew about the apartment. I'd been evicted from my apartment. I lost my home. Then I found out my car had been repoed. And I found out 80% of my life insurance company was gone because I hadn't been vested for 5 years. They found out about a financial accusation.
Oh, my.
And the night after I got home, I went on Facebook Live to tell the world. Yeah. And that night, my eyes started hurting. And that infection went into my right eye and it destroyed my cornea. I ended up in the hospital with it trying to attack my brain. It was going towards my brain.
That same infection that was in your nut and went to your ear, now it's in your cornea.
Now it's in my cornea. It destroyed my cornea. I was blind in my right eye. And I was blind, completely blind. All I saw was fog. Couldn't see through the fog. Until I got a cornea transplant in March of 2018. But I can tell you this, for a year, I didn't care whether I lived or died.
I can imagine.
I did convince my former landlady to let me stay in the apartment that I'd been evicted from, but most of my furniture was gone. I found a cheap car. I had one company left that I could sell, so I kept my head above water with referrals, but I couldn't even hardly drive. My right eye was just nasty. It was just not bleeding, but oozing all the time and painful. Yeah. But God gave me enough to keep me from being homeless. So I did reach out to some attorneys in North Carolina, and each one that I spoke to either didn't have the courage to fight or believed what they read was that the law in the state of North Carolina was designed that if you get out of jail alive, they've done their job. There's no recourse.
Wow. Yep.
So I didn't pursue that. At that point, I just handed it to God. There's nothing I can do about it. Now, I can tell you while I was in that jail, I was 23 hours a day in an 8x10. But while I was in that jail, God gave me this. He said, Glenn, I've got a plan for you. It's to prosper you and not to harm you, a plan for a hope and a future. And he said, Glenn, if you'll trust me, I will take what's meant to kill you and I'll turn it into good for you. Oh. Scotty, I can tell you that's the truth because I'm here today. I've got more than I've ever had. I've got a ministry and a mission in the country music world that I never would have had. I've written songs that never would have been able to come out of me. So I wouldn't recommend my journey to anybody.
No.
But you couldn't give me $10 million to take it back.
You know, you are reminding me, and I'm sorry, but I make no apologies to anybody. You are reminding me of the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis. Where
Potiphar did him pretty dirty.
His brothers sold him into slavery. He ends up in Egypt. And a lot of people think it's a fairy tale. I don't. I think there's plenty of evidence that he existed there. And what does he tell his brothers? You remember when it's 20 years later, and he's been raised up by God to this position of Grand Vizier of Egypt.
Yeah.
And his brothers come and he gives them land. There's that whole story. And then when he reveals himself to them, they're afraid he's going to kill them.
Yeah.
And he said, look, he says, you meant it for evil. He says, but God meant this for good. And this is where we are now. New page. Here we go.
Yeah.
And boy, I am reminded of that. with your story. And there's so many things you're talking about that flood things into my head that I want to say, but I don't want to sap that from your story at all.
No, you're not sapping a thing, brother. I can tell you, God will use what's meant to kill you and turn it into good if you trust Him. You may not have it. Doesn't. Here's the thing: as humans, if we don't see it, smell it, taste it, touch it, or hear it, it's not real. But I can tell you, the realness is in the spirit world. The realness is in the spirit world, and that's where it manifests into all these senses. But if you can't have faith, and here's another thing on faith, man. I think most Christians honestly don't have a clue what faith really is, because they're walking in security. And that security they feel is their job or their marriage or their whatever. Brother, there ain't no security in this world. And when that security is taken from you and you have nothing else, you can either hate God or you can trust God. And I chose at that point to trust Him. There was no earthly reason to, but He was speaking to me and I knew it.
I'm going to tell you that I'll be very honest with you. I am one of those guys that my faith has waned over the years. I told you I started out in ministry. And last 20 years, I don't think I've been inside the doorway of a church in 20 years.
God may not be in all those churches, though, Scotty. He may not be in Scotty. He may not be in those churches. Now, there's some that are good. Don't get me wrong. There's some that are, but there's a lot that's a 501c3 business, baby.
Yep. Well,
so I'm sorry to interrupt you.
What was Elijah's story? When I was up in the cleft of the rock in the mountainside, and the whirlwind went by, and God wasn't in the whirlwind. The fire went by, God wasn't in the fire. The earthquake, and God wasn't in the earthquake. And then there was the still small voice.
Yeah, the little whisper.
So I only say that to say that when I'm agreeing with you on certain things, I've always said to my audience, I have a lot of doubts and I have a lot of questions, and I go through and I ask a lot of questions. And there are some things where I think maybe if God wasn't as patient as He is, He would already said, all right, you're done. But I'm still here. And so I don't want to give any pretense to anybody that because I'm agreeing with you this, and it's hitting me in the heart that I have suddenly I am no longer the things I've been up to this point. I still am. I still have my doubts. I still have my things, my fears, my lack of faith, my questioning of things biblically and historically and all of that. But I listen to your story, and what keeps bringing me or tweaks the thing that's deep down in my heart is a story like yours and stories like yours that I've heard from other people that don't have anything to do with systematic theology. They don't have anything to do with describing what happened in the Old Testament, the New Testament. Nothing to do with that. It all has to do with relationship.
It's relationship.
And how yours is the second story in 2 days. I have heard about somebody who said it was I saw the story. I can't remember his name, Marcus something, who had been walking down the street in Georgia, got shot by a gang, and they just shot him up and left him for dead. And he said his story saw an angel and all of that. It's the second story of faith like this I've heard in 2 days. And so
God's probably trying to speak to you, and I'm glad you're listening. So, but this story's not done. So this was 2018, Scotty, and I got the cornea transplant in March of 2018. That's a year-long recovery. I don't know if you know that on a cornea transplant.
Yeah.
It's a long one. But for a year, brother, I didn't care whether I lived or died. Wasn't suicidal, just didn't care. And in July of 2018, a year after I'd been arrested, I got a phone call from a buddy of mine from Oklahoma, and he was in town working. He's like, brother, let me pick you up and let's take you to dinner. I'm like, okay, I can get out of this mess. I'll go out for a night. And he picked me up. It was a Saturday, and we went to a little place on the beach called Lulu's Bait Shack, and there was a live band playing. Now, this is where it gets a little jiggy, because in the church world, you don't find God anywhere but in the church. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. That's not at all the case. We were in this place, and this cover band was playing 80s music, and they were just dadgum good. And for the first time in a year, I was laughing and smiling and singing my butt off. Nice. Now, you got to remember, I hadn't sang since 2003, and so I was pretty cruddy. But I'm singing my butt off. And in the middle of this song, and I'll tell you what it does. It was Kiss, I Want to Rock and Roll All Night.
Nice.
And I'm singing. And this little Armenian girl, this little lead singer comes out in the middle of a song and she hands me her microphone. And I just went, oh. I mean, it hit me so hard right here in my heart that God sparked a flame. I had no idea what had happened, but I knew at that moment I needed to sing again. And I began to follow this band around, and they'd let me sing a song with them. And before long, I'd have 2 or 3 songs on the set with them. And I was getting a chance to warm my voice up, and it was terrible. It took a year, literally, to get that muscle back where I wasn't just gravelly.
Right.
Yeah. But then I realized I need to do this, and I started to put a band together in 2019. And by 2020, I thought I was ready to go. I had recorded some music that wasn't mine. I found out the guy that sold it to me, it wasn't his either. He'd stolen it. But I was getting ready to do my first show March the 28th, 2020. And March the 23rd, 2020, Fort Lauderdale shut the doors, baby. The COVID pandemic fiasco took place.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, what in the world is this? You told me to sing.
Well, you brought me all the way to this point to tell me to stop.
Yeah. And he just kind of smiled at me. He said, don't worry about it. And so I found out who had actually written the songs that had been stolen and sold to me, and called the guy up. He was a Nashville songwriter. I said, man, I've been party to stealing your music. I had no idea. And he's like, well, tell me the story. And I told him what it was. And he said, yeah, I know that dude. He said, you've recorded them, send them to me. And I did. And about 2 days later, he called me back. He said, man, you got a pretty good voice, but those aren't radio ready. That's why, yeah, obviously I know that. I was just making a demo. And he said, I'll tell you what, if you'll come to Nashville, I've got a producer and we'll find a studio and we'll get them radio ready with you.
Nice.
And so I went to Nashville. And that was in April or May. I don't remember exactly. April or May of 2020. And so I met this guy. And he was from Miami, Oklahoma, just 40 miles from me. We were kind of the same age, probably ran into each other before. But he had also written a song called Freedom. Now, when I heard that song prior to meeting him, the guy had tried to sell that one to me too. In my spirit, I knew that was my song, but it had to be rewritten. And so I asked him, I said, did you write that song? He's like, yeah. I said, that's my song. He said, what do you mean? I said, this needs to be rewritten to what's currently going on in our world today because we're messed up. It was written about a guy playing a guitar trying to follow freedom on his guitar. It's now the summit's turning 16, chasing life with a set of keys. It's about freedom and what it means to each one of us. And it's a little bit different,
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's what we're all striving for. So I got to co-write that song and we ended up writing, and that was my first release. And I released that July the 3rd with the music video, July the 3rd, 2020. Charlie Daniels passed away July the 6th, 2020, 3 days later. And that song played all over the world.
Wow. Well, I happen to have one of your songs downloaded. And because we're on YouTube, do I have your permission to play your song?
100%. Yeah.
It's,
if we need to sign
No
something.
New Normal. No New Normal is this song. This might be a good time. It's 40 minutes after the top of the hour. Let's play this song, last couple of minutes. And folks, if you need to get up or do anything or stretch, same thing with you, brother. If you need to do that, let's play this song. You get a little taste of Glenn Baker. So let me call this up, and we're not going out to break. We're just going to play this song, and we'll be right back when it's done playing. We'll be sitting right here. So here we go.
Americans are facing a new normal, one that may include losing their jobs.
But certainly the new normal will be different than the old normal.
But what we do know is this is massively going to change the way that we live our lives.
And the challenge that no matter what the new normal looks like.
But is it also fated to be your future?
I woke up this morning and looked out the door to a country I don't recognize. They put masks on our face to hide our pain, and there's no fire in most people's eyes. We can't go to church to worship God, but we can loot and riot and steal. There's those at the top that are twisting their knobs, and man, it's making me pretty ill. I saw on the TV a group of kids stomping on Old Glory out in the street. They lit her on fire, and it made me pretty mad to see her lying in filth under their feet. Then I paused to remember they may not know any better than to do whatever they see, because they don't know anyone who was raised in a way as someone such as me. No new normal, we gotta take our country back. You can take it or leave it, but it's a matter of fact. There's those on the left and some on the right trying to pull off puppet strings. If they don't stop, it's gonna be a fight, and that's alright with me. There's a war going on that we cannot see, and it's happening all around us. Paying people to fight and riot and burn and bringing them in on a big bus. They're destroying our business, threatening our lives, trying to take our liberty. Then the talking heads look us right in the eye and say, that's just the way it's gotta be. No new normal, we gotta take our country back. You can take it or leave it, son, but it's a matter of fact. There's those on the left and some on the right trying to pull off puppet strings. If they don't stop, it's gonna be a fight, and that's alright with me. That's alright with me. We were founded on a free land. By God, we have what we have. But the milk and honey is for those willing to fight. For liberty and justice, and all our wives and our kids. By God, we'll fight like they did in 1776. Go on and put me on your list. No new normal, we gotta take our country back. You can take it or leave it, but it's a matter of fact. There's those on the left and some on the right trying to pull off puppet strings. If they don't stop, it's gonna be a fight, and that's alright with me. That's alright with me. That's alright. That's alright. That's alright. That's alright with me. Come on, boys. Let's go get us some liberty.
Come on, boys. Let's go get us some liberty. Those guys at the end, are those some of the guys that are filming with you now?
No, those people I don't know. That was actually stock footage that my videographer put together. That was a quick video, but God had his hand all over that. I wrote that song in the middle of the night in 15 minutes, Scotty.
That was I like that. I heard it a couple of times earlier today. I played that. So
well, that's about the time when I woke up and realized I was a pissed off American. Can you tell?
Yeah, there you go. So let me ask you, how does going from I did this jail time for something I shouldn't have been in jail for. I had this infection, took over my eye. I fell into a despondency, a depression, probably, not caring what was going on, to this music hitting you, rebirthing your love for that, and going into this now. And now you're singing this song is purely patriotic stuff. This isn't a country western like, you know, I got my shotgun in my back window and my dog ate my wife kind of thing. It's something, this is patriotic. Is this the thrust of the music you're doing now? Or are you spreading over different genres within the country western? What is it that brought you to this? And is this where you're camping out?
I'm doing what I'm supposed to do today. I can't tell you what tomorrow holds, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to do today. I guess if you had to categorize me, I would probably be along the lines of a Southern rock with a twang. Not really traditional country western or anything. More of a Southern rock with a twang. I grew up in Oklahoma. I ain't getting rid of the twang. It's there. But when I came back into music back in 2020, I just knew I wanted to sing again, Scotty. I didn't know what it was going to turn into.
Right.
And then he began to give me these songs and to give me this passion about my country. And then I just, man, once you get your eyes opened a little bit, you can't not see it. And it becomes like a snowball rolling down a mountain, and it just grows and grows and grows to the point where now my mission, and I didn't care about riches and fame. Let me just preface that.
Sure.
I came back into music to sing. I hoped I could make a living at it, but it wasn't about riches and fame. However, the platform that he's giving me now requires a lot of people to know who I am, because we got a message to spread.
Yes.
And so I think we're in the process of that taking place with this documentary, as well as the new music video for Soldier Strong that'll be coming out.
I was going to ask the new the video that you're filming. Rocky put up some pictures, and he said to all of us, I think on the show, that he had wanted to just join in with those guys. Are those guys that you knew, that you served with, that were in that video? Just
that was all God, man. I never even heard of them people until the morning of the shoot, and they were volunteers up in Georgia. A gentleman named Thomas Stratton, who has an organization called Millvet, pulled it all together. And there was 6 guys there, plus my 2 people. My son is actually in the music video. Poor child looks just like me, so he's a mini me. And a friend of mine,
handsome.
Exactly, and a friend of mine's son. So there was 8 guys, and 6 of those guys are badass soldiers, the real deal. I'm talking special ops, cavalry scouts, intelligence. And they came in and volunteered to put on a show for me, basically reenacting a war scene. And I'll tell you the truth, Scotty, in a deep, deep way, it's not out of arrogance, but this 4.5-minute music video looks like a miniature Saving Private Ryan. It's that realistic and that good. I expect it to be shocking to people. Explosions.
Rocky said something about that. Having that effect on him as well. And he was doing some filming of that behind the scenes as well, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, and stuff he did behind the scenes looks amazing. You can see that on my Facebook page too, probably on his.
All right. Let's see. I just went over and friended you on Facebook at some point today. Are you just under Glenn Baker?
Yeah. I was deplatformed about 2 years ago, and so I just rebuilt under my own name.
So Glenn Baker, GLENN BAKER.
That's
so
correct.
Go look him up, and you can find his Facebook page. I went and added you on my X feed and my Instagram as well. So you're going to go.
Man, I ain't figured out X. I haven't figured out X yet. I've got a page, but I hadn't figured that one out yet. That's Rocky's job now.
Yes, there you go. That's Rocky. That's why you hired him.
That's right. Rocky's job, he'll always be.
That's it. Exactly. So, where do I want to go with this now? I want to find out what there's something here on your website that I read, and I wanted you to talk about some of these points that you've got up there. Why Glenn Baker's story matters. It's like there's part of us that want to say, people say, who gives a shit about Glenn Baker? I don't know Glenn Baker.
Right.
But you've got a great story. You've got 4 points on there: resilience, community, patriotism, and liberty. And in the resilience, you have overcoming adversity from the battlefield to business challenges, which you've had plenty. Community, you have rebuilding communities post Hurricane Wilma, creating jobs, patriotism. We talked about using music to support and honor veterans and liberty, inspiring tales of freedom through your songs. So
Right.
give us some of those points. I want to hear a lot about inspiring others through your songs, liberty and freedom. I want to hear about what you're doing for vets.
Sure.
And so talk about those things.
Well, here's the first thing. I don't know that you should give a crap about Glenn Baker or not. But here's what I will tell you. Glenn Baker's a 56-year-old man starting in the music business. That may be the dumbest thing you've heard of all day long. No joke. I mean, I'm the oldest baby act in Nashville. But I got a little bit of wisdom. I don't know, a little bit. And I don't live in Nashville. And there's a reason for that, man. You go to Nashville, you see 10,000 guys there, better looking, younger, and can out-sing me and play a guitar. I'm not going to compete with that. What I am going to do is I'm going to be me, and I'm going to do what I do. Yeah. And I can actually go into Nashville and play in places that they can't get in because I'm in Fort Lauderdale now for the last 18 years. I sound like a superstar going into Nashville to play. It's amazing. And I've got the chance to open for Big and Rich in Nashville. It was a lot of fun. Nice. Did a show with Cletus T. Judd a couple of years ago in nice. West Virginia. Ira Dean from Trick Pony now has become a great friend of mine. Ira Dean is a Grammy-nominated ACM AMA winner. And he's got 8 number ones underneath his belt from writing. And he and I are getting ready to write 4 new songs. Nice. And we're going to be doing some touring together. And Ira is, let me just brag on Ira Dean for a moment. Ira is about my age, maybe a year or two younger. In 1991, while I was in Desert Storm, he went to Nashville trying to make it. And he ended up within, I don't know, 6 months or a year, ended up living with Johnny and June Cash. And that's where he got his teeth broken in, with Johnny Cash. And I learned the great things about the business, learned a lot of the bad things about the business. He was a wild, wild partier. But God has gotten a hold of him, and he's 13 years clean and sober. And he is the co-writer of a song, and I don't know if you'll know this or not, but Aaron Lewis released a song about 3 years ago called Am I the Only One? Yeah. Powerful. I love that song. Ira Dean is co-writer of that song. And he and I are great friends, and he's going to be included in this documentary as well. I think if we can get it scheduled combined where I can get him filmed. But I'm telling you, at 56, this is not the avenue that I would recommend. I mean, I should be getting ready to retire.
What's retire?
Well, exactly. But I will tell you, Scotty, I'm actually having the time of my life.
Well, that's good.
I think it's the greatest time in history to be alive, because we get a chance now to make a difference. If we don't do something, we're screwed. But if we do, we still got a chance to win, and we get to watch that, man. Can you imagine the ticker tape parade? If we can win this battle and we see things coming back, not to everything that it used to be. Nobody wants racism like it used to be in the 60s. You know, nobody wants the LGBTQ to feel like they're being threatened if they come out in public. Nobody wants that. Right. But let's get along. Let's become the United States of America again instead of the divided. We get a chance to do that now. And so that's part of my inspiration and what I want to do. Help people to say, man, if that old dude can do this, surely I can do something.
And, you know, the things that we are seeing going on have so slipped in that I think the people that we are resisting right now who are doing that, some of them I don't think even are aware that they have done that until they get their head up out of the mire and they look and they go, I caused this. And because there are people that don't know, I honestly believe that they don't realize they're the problem. Right. And we're the ones that have to point it out. What was, again, Old Testament verse, and I looked for a man among them who would stand in the gap. And God said, and I found none. And it was the prophet who said, I'm here. I'll stand in the gap.
Here am I. Send me.
Send me. And so you are trying to do on a level of that's music, it's entertainment, it speaks to the soul, it speaks to people's hearts. You're taking that, instead of saying, I need to put on a ski mask and grab a gun and go out and try to force a rebellion that way, You're trying to do a rebellion that starts in the heart.
Exactly.
And that's I'm seeing that, and I'm appreciating that.
Well, God said we need to be as sneaky as a snake and as gentle as a dove when it comes to Him. And so I feel like God's call for me is to build a platform, and a musical platform even, where we get a chance to go all over the country and people want to come hear some good music.
Yes.
And we're going to be touring with some big name people that are like-minded, where we can party and have a good time and people dancing, but I can slip in a little bit of that truth from an unexpected source. And then people will go, oh, I never thought about that before, from somebody that's not up there preaching MAGA, and shoving that down their throats. I got no problem with the term "Make America Great Again." Now, but it's been so twisted that it's a nasty word to a lot of people, and I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to be doing that, but I'm going to be singing North of Tucson, headed south on 19, and get them to dance, And then it might come up that, hey, y'all know what happened to me? Da-da-da-da-da. And this is what I found. And this is where it works for me. Maybe you ought to try it. Maybe it'll work for you. And then go into something else.
Well, listen, Glenn, here's what we're going to do. If you have time, could you stick around for a few minutes after the break at the top of the hour and maybe answer some questions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to tell you about the mission that we've got for our veterans.
And let's do that when we come back.
You got
it. Let's cut out just a little bit early. We're going to play a couple of minutes worth of stuff in between. So, folks, you can get up and do what you want to do. But don't go away, because we're going to be right back with the Captain's Cabin, which is kind of our after show. Try to let down our hair a little bit. People call in, and we can talk and we can converse. And I want to hear your story about the veterans and what you want to
Absolutely.
We're going to go with that. So, everybody, I want you to sit tight. Don't go anywhere unless you got to go somewhere, if you know what I mean. And we're going to cut out for a couple of minutes like we do every show. And so all of you, if you got to leave at the top of the hour, then we'll see you next time. But everybody else, stick around, live long and prosper. We'll be right back.
The Intrepid Radio Program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid Radio Broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week, I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep.
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave. And welcome back to the captain's cabin. Glad you could all stick around. We are here with Glenn Baker, country western star, and we've got rising star. Maybe you don't like the term star. I don't know. Country western.
I'm not
artist.
there yet, baby. I'm not there yet.
Country western artist.
That'll work.
So we've been talking about what he does, his work involved. I see Grumpy's stack is out there. We're waiting in the wings. Grumpy, I'm going to bring you in, but I want to get Glenn starting to talk about his work with veterans. And then, so stick around there, Grumpy. Don't go away, and we'll bring you in just a little bit here. Go ahead, Glenn. Talk about your work with veterans.
Man, I'll make it pretty quick. Shortly after I'd written No New Normal, I was invited to speak or to sing at an engagement here in Florida that General Michael Flynn was speaking at. And so I got to go sing a few of those songs that I've written and got to meet him. And that night, it was a fundraiser for an organization that puts exoskeletons on paralyzed veterans to allow them to walk again.
Oh.
And they wheeled a Marine up on stage that had been paralyzed in Afghanistan 7 years prior to that. This young man was able to stand up and walk around this room at a pretty brisk pace. And I don't mean a little room. I'm talking about a conference center with 300 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling everybody, man, now I get a chance to someday walk my daughter down the aisle. I can reach the top shelf for my wife again. I feel like a man. I'm in the corner and I'm crying like a baby, man. I got tears dripping out of my beard. It broke me in a good way. I'll never be the same. And I went home and began a mission to write a song that had some meaning and that could be used for veterans. And it took me 3 years, Scotty. And we just completed the music video for that last month. But while we're doing that, like I told you, God put on my heart to film a documentary. And the documentary is entitled Finish This Fight, Diary of a Pissed Off American Soldier. And as many, many soldiers and sailors, Marines, squids, Navy SEALs, fighter pilots across the country that I've had a chance to interview as part of this. Here's where it gets cool. We're going to market this thing when we release it at the end of September through influencers and affiliates. Right now, we've got influencers and affiliates involved that nearly have 8 million viewers combined. So I think we're going to move a lot of these for only $10.
Fantastic.
$10 for the music video, the song download, and the documentary. It probably ought to be at least double that for that kind of products, because these are Hollywood quality. I mean, it's not somebody out with a cell phone filming me. I've got money in this thing. This is Hollywood quality.
Yeah.
But we're going to take 50% of the proceeds of what we sell these things for is going directly to veterans. And I've already picked out the first man that's going to get to walk again. There's a young man in Mineral Wells, Texas, named Joshua Holm. And Josh was wounded in Iraq in 2004, was able to walk for many years with the help of steel braces. He went around the country doing speaking engagements and encouraging people. He was building a ranch called Steel Hope in Mineral Wells. He was working in his closet a year ago, December. He turned wrong, something snapped, and he's now paralyzed from the chest down for almost 2 years.
Oh, boy.
Well, he is going to be the one that receives the first exoskeleton from the proceeds of this project. We're going to get that young man walking again. He is a walking, talking, courageous influencer that's sitting in a wheelchair, still building a ranch to help other veterans to heal.
Wow, that is wow is such a bad response for that. That is admirable, and that is commendable. I love that you're doing that with the proceeds. There's something to be said for doing something that you love to do and be able to make a living at it. There's another thing when it says I'm taking the things I'm doing and I'm giving it to other people so it helps them out, and especially when it's veterans who need that so much more, especially now in our country today. We're not catering to our veterans that need the help. We're catering to illegal immigrants, undocumented people, and that money needs to come home. Did you, by any chance, I'm going to ask you, did you hear Tulsi Gabbard give her endorsement of Donald Trump today?
I didn't hear it, but I heard about it while ago.
Oh, it was phenomenal. It was after he laid the wreath on it's the third anniversary of our 13 soldiers dying. Withdrawal of Afghanistan. And Trump was there with the Gold Star families who were able to make it there. And Tulsi Gabbard is up there speaking. She said, I watched him. She said, I didn't see President Biden there. I didn't see Vice President Harris. But Donald Trump came to this, stood with the Gold Star families. And she said his heart to them was so genuine. And she said it's almost hard to express it here. And she talked very much about her fallen comrades and allies in the military. And so it was very good. If you haven't seen it, go find the recording, probably on YouTube, news sources, of Tulsi Gabbard endorsing Donald Trump today. And so that was just excellent. So that's what I think of when you talk about the work that you're doing. We put on symposiums for a while, and we did a couple of years. We donated some proceeds to the Wounded Warriors. And so, excuse me. And so it's always been a cause that I find, I do a TikTok, and they have, when I first signed it up, I do a daily reading thing on TikTok. And when you sign up, you can put in there who you want to support. And I put in the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America because I couldn't find Wounded Warriors. I couldn't find anything like that on TikTok. So that just made me think of that. So
we're going to try to make a difference, brother. And really, my goal is to embarrass the government enough that they'll pick it up after we get started.
Fantastic. And that's what needs to be done. And so how can people, before I bring Grumpy Stack in, Doug Stack, and have people call in, where can people go to find you, to be able to can they pre-sign up to for this thing that you're doing out of the documentary, the music video and all that?
We should have a pre-sale available in about 2 weeks. But right now it's at glennbakerusa.com. That's Glenn with 2 N's, glennbakerusa.com. We'll be selling through affiliates, and you and I need to chat about this, Scotty, because I'd love to give you a link and help support you.
Oh, that would be phenomenal. Thank you. And I would like to do the same for you, obviously. There is Glenn's website. You can copy. The links aren't always direct in this chat room, so you can copy that and paste it and go see Glenn's website. So, Glenn, you're ready to take a couple of calls from people?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Grumpy Stack. This is Doug Stack. He's been a long-time listener down in Louisiana. He down there in Louisiana. And first time I was down in Louisiana, he took me out for some Louisiana food.
Woo, I love me some crawfish.
How you doing, Doug?
I didn't take him for some crawfish because it wasn't the season.
We couldn't do crawfish, yeah.
But hey man, Glenn.
Yes, sir.
I like the music.
Thank
I
you.
really like the music. Man, I just want to say thank you for helping out the veterans and all that. My dad is a Vietnam veteran and he's not doing good right now. You know, unfortunately, I think within the next year, 2 years, he's not going to be around anymore.
Yeah.
You know, the Agent Orange and stuff like that is taking a toll, and he's almost blind now. He was diagnosed with a blood clot in his head, and the doctors can't do anything for him.
Wow.
Sorry to hear that, brother.
Yeah. It's hard because that dude has been, you know, my rock. He's been behind me. You don't know my story. I have a tire shop down here in Louisiana.
It's on our banner. Let's see.
Huh?
There, it's on our banner somewhere.
Yeah,
I didn't turn back
on. He's been my rock, and you know, fortunately, I'm 45 years old. I know a lot of people haven't had their parents around till, you know, their mid-age and everything. But you know, veterans to me mean so much. I'm trying to get it out, but I can't.
It's all right.
Knock it out, brother. Let me tell you this. Jesus died for your soul. The veterans died for your freedom.
Yes,
and they
sir.
lived for your freedom, too. It ain't just dying. They lived it.
Yes, sir. And like, okay, so I came of age. I'm 45 years old. When September 11th happened, my father, I was 21, 22 years old at the time. I wanted to sign up. My father told me not to sign up.
Uh-huh.
He said, you know, and it's been bad the whole time. Like, he didn't get treated right. I don't know if you've heard a lot of the stories from the Vietnam veterans.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
When they came back, they were greeted with you know, birds and shit thrown at them.
Uh-huh.
And he did not want me to go into the military because he's like, they don't treat you right. You know, if there was one time in my life where I wanted to disregard what my dad wanted me to do, it's I wish I did. I wish I did sign up. But
well, it's all right, brother. You know, and there's no reason to regret that.
Not at all.
I got to tell you. As
no,
you know my story. I signed up for 6 years and broke a bone in my lower back the second week I was there, and I'm done. So that was 40 years ago.
Well, that was 40 years ago, not 400 years ago.
Sometimes it feels like there's an extra zero on there. Let's just put it this way: you could be my boy. So,
Well, yeah, kind of.
So
If you
it's
if
late.
if you
It's supposed to
started
be
young,
time. Oh, yeah, honey. Come
but
on.
no, Glenn, really, I really wanna, I am gonna. Oh, who is
Go
that,
ahead. We just
Delaney?
got Nancy and Raf on here, so.
Oh, Nancy
Oh,
and
okay.
Rocky. Hey, you guys be quiet down there.
Oh, I didn't know we were
what
He's
on.
talking.
what were you
Glenn,
telling
really,
What were you telling me,
honestly,
Grumpy?
I like that song. I didn't hear the whole. I wasn't there for the whole show, but I really dig your stuff.
Thank you, brother. Look up No New Normal and look up Freedom on my YouTube channel. It's Glenn Baker Band,
Will
and
do, brother.
we getting ready to drop
Excellent.
Soldier Strong here in about a month and a half, 2 months. So you'll enjoy that one. That'll bring a tear out of you, I'm pretty sure, but you'll enjoy it.
Hey, if you talk to Rocky, tell him I'm mad at him.
I'll
mad
let
at
him know,
Rocky?
buddy.
I'll tell him.
All right.
Grumpy,
Take
good
care.
to see you.
Take care,
Good to
buddy.
Love
see
you, brother.
Good night.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, we got Raphael. Raphael.
I thought
You
we
know,
were
you know what
still
that always reminds me of?
backstage.
Remember
I thought we were still backstage.
the first Zorro movie with Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
And
I
they're
remember
talking about the governor coming back, and the old jailer. They wake him up. They go, "It's one or Don Raphael." And he goes,
Don Rafael.
"It's
That's
one." He
right.
goes, Raphael.
Do not encourage him.
Rafael.
I just thought you were talking about the Puss in Boots cartoon.
Oh no,
I'm with you, Glenn.
that's still Antonio.
It's good to see you, Glenn. Again, Glenn. It was.
Yeah, good to see you guys, man. We'll see
we've
each
been
other again
following-
pretty quick.
Yeah,
Look,
we've been
we're
following
loaded up
updates.
with Army here now. We got Jason here too. So,
Hey,
Nice.
Jason.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man.
Raf, you were Army, right?
Oh.
Army
me?
intelligence or something like that.
Oh Lord God,
Yeah.
no! Don't say the A word.
No.
No.
I was in the.
Go
I
Army?
was in 4 years in the Marines and 2 in National Guard. Army.
Oh,
National
Marines. Okay.
Ah,
Guard. So I've had.
Yeah,
I've
I
had
was
some
I was
exposure.
Marines for 2 weeks, so I don't think I even
Yeah?
get to hold the title. So
Yeah. No, but we've been following along with the progress you've been making with Rocky on the documentary, and
Yeah.
we're really excited. We're really excited. We've been
It's coming along, brother. We got about 6 days left to film, and then we go into the editing world for a while.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear it. You guys have been knocking it out. I've seen some really great high-profile interviews there.
Brother, this was not on my radar 6 weeks ago, and it's all coming together. I'm amazed. I got to go sit down with Colonel Alan West and Chad
I
Prather.
know.
that's
and-
outstanding.
And General Flynn, and this morning it was Craig Salman
Yeah.
Sawyer,
Yeah.
you know,
Nice.
and John Teagan on Saturday, the Benghazi survivor. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
crazy.
Fantastic guests. Matter of
Yep.
fact, they're right up my alley. I don't know if you know, we're booting up a show on Stucci Media called Against All Enemies. And it's going to be talking about right up your alley.
Cool, man.
So I'd love to have you on.
Yeah, let me know how I can help.
Absolutely. We'll do.
Outstanding.
And as you
I am
know,
looking
Glenn,
for a link,
I've got
Susie,
your
for you,
back.
by the way, Susie Q in the chat room for that song we just did and that we played. Or are you looking for the other one? Oh, she pasted the link. That must be it. So, all right. JP, how you doing?
doing all right, man. Doing all right. How's it going?
It's
Have a good
going.
night, guys.
Take care,
See you,
buddy.
Ralph. See you, Nancy.
Later, guys. Just 2 things primarily. One, hey, Glenn, what you're doing there for the disabled vets with the exoskeleton walking system. That's awesome. Far too many people came back messed up from both OIF and OEF.
And by the way, Jason is an Afghan. How do you say it for you, an Afghani vet?
Afghan vet. Afghani's the money.
You were Mountain Division, right?
Yeah, I was 10th Mountain.
I've still got my mountain flask you sent me from Afghanistan. somewhere.
Brother, I got a cavalry scout in the music video that was over there and doing the same thing. So
Yeah, well, that's another thing I wanted to touch on in my comments. It looks like it got missed. I threw out some disparaging flack towards Cav Scouts just a good inter within the branch rivalry kind of thing.
Man, I'll see if I can copy and paste that and send that to Tom.
Well, I don't know if we need to have anything being sent to anybody where it's like, Cab Scouts gay.
Yeah, baby.
But then again, I was running around with light infantry guys, so I was an ordnance dude running around in a light infantry division, and so we some things just sort of rub off on you.
Yeah.
when you're around enough people, but it's all in good fun. Yeah, and that's one of those things that a lot of people on the outside don't get is just how thorough of a ribbing we tend to give one another.
Well, we were trained not to be wussies, man.
There it is.
It's a different military now. These drill sergeants are getting written up for being too hard on their recruits, and that's no joke. That's happening.
Yeah, no, I mean it definitely is. I mean, I can tell you one thing. I went through basic training in 2003, so my info is a little dated, but I heard the rumors even before I shipped out. That stress cards and things like that. That was something that rolled on the radar screen for all about 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And then was no longer. So I never saw a stress card in my entire life, and things like that. But there's some stuff that it feels like it's getting wussified, for lack of better term, but
a little softer.
It's a little softer, but there's at the same time. You may not be able, drill sergeants might not be able to, do some of the kinds of things that they did when I went through, when you went through, things like that. But there is something to be said for adapting to work with what you've got. And there's some things I definitely disagree with, like, not necessarily having to pass a PT test to get out of basic. Stuff like that. It's like, when you walk out of basic training, you're still a relatively raw recruit. You've got to get through your AIT, and then even then, you start getting your real training when you get out to your line unit. Because that's how that's where you learn how it's done in the real world versus via the textbook. So.
Well, I don't know that I completely agree with that, because basic training was cool for me. I graduated as distinguished honor graduate.
Oh, yeah. I had a hell of a time with it too. It was fun.
I scored 299 out of 300 on the PT test the last day.
That's not bad.
No, but here's something that I didn't talk about, and nobody knows this. So this new song that I'm releasing, when I wrote it, I knew I wanted it to be something different, and so I Google searched for my drill sergeant from 1989, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I found him with a telephone number. And I called and I said, "Is this Drill Sergeant Timothy J. John?" And he's like, "Yeah, who the hell are you?" and I told him, "Private Baker, Alpha 1st to the 33rd. He's like, "Baker, the little wrestler, right?" I'm, "Yep." So long story short, he's in my music video calling cadence on the front end of this song and the back end of this song for me.
Nice. My
actual drill sergeant is in my music video.
That's outstanding.
Cool. I would love to look up my old drill instructor. His name was, when I knew him in 1984, he was a Staff Sergeant Matt Pisani, Pisani. He was from Boston.
Oh, no, he wasn't. Pisani. I bet he caught all kinds of crap with that name.
Oh, man. But he was, when I broke my back, I was functional. I just couldn't do anything, and they wouldn't keep me.
Yeah.
And it's still there. It's still a broken bone in my lower back. But they found out I was an illustrator, and I was painting a big mural on the wall down at MCRD in San Diego of a Colonial Minuteman standing in the stairwell, larger than life, with the big Colonial flag. And the major there, a guy named Major Ford at the time, he said, speaking of boot camp, he said, "Son, if you want to stay in," because I was being shipped home, and Pisani was keeping me around until I finished the mural. It was a joke we had afterwards, but he said, "We'll waiver. I can get boot camp waived for you, and we'll put you in." I was supposed to go in after boot down to Pensacola and do my officer training. I signed up to be an officer for 6 years.
Right.
He said, we'll get stuff worked out. You'll be a second lieutenant and blah, 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 blah. And I turned it down because I got a job back home.
Right.
But Pisani, my old drill instructor, called me about 6 months after I was home. And that was back, we didn't have cell phones back in the mid 1980s.
Yep.
And all we had was the Jim Rockford from the Rockford Files. Yep. Dial phones and push button phones. And we had the answering machines. Beep, leave your message after the tone.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And so I get this. I'm listening to messages, and I've got this little pause after it goes beep, and there's a pause, and then it goes, "Yeah, you know who this is. You will give me a call back at the number I am going to leave you at the end of this message." And he had the Boston accent too. And he says, "Otherwise, you will drop and you will give me 50 on the spot, Roberts. Call me." And
I love that, man.
And so I called him, and he flew me out there. We did some work together. He did, there were T-shirts back then in the mid 80s at the PXs on the Marine Corps bases. I don't know if he went cross-pollinated or not, but we had Commie Busters, which was the Ghostbusters logo.
Right.
We put them in the, what do we call those? The fur hats with the red star on it, the Ghost, a circle and a slash. It was the very same logo. And then we had an American Eagle carrying a Shiite Muslim, and with the caption, "We don't take no Shiite." And we did a bunch of those, and they went all over. Commie Busters went really big at the time.
So Glenn, you said you went through basic at SIL.
Yep.
Did you end up a fister?
I was 13 Echo, fire direction control for an 8-inch artillery battery.
Okay.
So, but I pulled a few lanyards too.
Yeah, no, I was Charlie Battery 179 when I went through basic at SIL. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Alpha 1st to the 33rd was the training battery.
Yeah.
We were the last units in the World War II barracks.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it was out in we got through training in April of '89, if I remember right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Got it. I can't even remember where I was in '89. I was too young.
Oh, I hate you.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
But my wife was 9 in '89. She was 4 when I was in the Marines.
Scotty, you just became my hero.
Oh, why, thank you.
Yeah. My girlfriend right now is 40. I'm 56. I thought I was doing good.
Oh, well, yeah. 16. I got you by 3 years. 19 and a half year difference between us.
Yeah.
And she is, that's why in my little ad, she said, he's been doing this for more years than I've been
alive.
Yeah.
So
well,
we've been
awesome,
married.
man.
We've been together for 20 years. So.
Oh, that's great, man.
I met her quite young.
I'm not even going to do the math.
Young.
I'm not going to do the math. I don't want to know.
I was 44. She was 24.
Yeah.
So whatever that was, she's 44 now. So
Gotcha.
So when did you get out, Glenn?
94.
Okay.
95. 90, July 94. So I actually joined through the Guard.
Yeah.
I joined in July of '88, went through basic in January of '89. working a job. I was 21 years old when I went to basic training. So when I graduated, I had a letter directly from my commander to go directly to officers candidate school. And so I finished up a few credits in college and was. What's that?
Did they like you because you were a little older than most of the other recruits?
Yeah, I just actually interviewed my drill sergeant last week for the documentary, and that's one of the things he said. I had a little bit of maturity, but I knew it was a game. It was a game, and I knew how to play that game. Mm-hmm. So, and I was a college wrestler. A few years before that, I was still in pretty great shape. I'd worked from the time I was 8 years old. I was pretty mature. So I went to I was on my way to OCS, actually the first few weeks when we got called up to Desert Storm in 1990. So I dropped out of OCS and went with my boys. Never went back.
I was 20. I keep messing up the years. If it was 83 or 84 that I enlisted, I was 22 or 23 when I went in. I'd already gone through college and seminary, and I got in. Roberts, you got an education. You're going to be the company secretary. And so, I was the guy that had to schedule all the fire watches at night, every hour on the hour. The bunkmates, top and lower bunk, they had to get it full gear and do fire watch. Well, I made sure that my bunkmate down below and me on the top, that we got the last watch of every night. It's just the way I signed it all up. So we didn't have to be woken up by the drill instructor.
Right.
So, and dressed by the drill. You got 10 Marine Corps seconds to put on your socks. 9, 8, 5, 4. You're done. Lock it up. So
good stuff, man.
I remember one of my drill sergeants liked to do front back goes. So we would sit there and we would knock out push-ups when he said front, and when he said back, we're on our back doing flutter kicks. When he said go, we're jumping up and running in place. And he would alternate, it'd be front, go, back, go, front, and all that. And then at one point he started, and we got smoked longer for it, but you couldn't help it because he got kind of a cadence going with things.
Right.
And next thing you know, he's sitting there going, on your belly, on your back, run in place.
Nice.
On your belly, on your back, run in place.
That's fun. That's just good, clean fun. I don't care who you are, man.
Right. Oh, yeah. What was funny, too, was after that, I went to Warrant Officer Candidate School and ran into similar kind of stuff from our TAC officers.
Really?
I was like, I thought this was an officer producing school. What's going on with this?
Wow. I think one of my favorite lines I took out of boot camp was one of the drill instructors saying to me, what planet are you from, Botosh? He was asking one guy. So you could see these drill instructors. It was their job. Most of these kids didn't know any better, and they were scared out of their nuts. And you could see, I'd sit back and I'd watch these guys, and they were like, they'd be talking, hey, so what we're going to do over here. And they'd take you through it. And they were just guys doing their job. There was nobody was an ass.
Absolutely.
So,
oh, yeah.
So it was good
I do remember the back on your back flutter kicks, but they called it back then the dying cockroach.
Yep.
Yeah.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
Appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Glenn, I have kept you a half hour longer. Are you good for sitting around, or do you need to go?
Truthfully, I just got a text while we were on a little bit ago that a buddy of mine's had a heart attack and he's in the hospital.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to go check it out and make sure he's okay.
Our best to your buddy. Thank you for sitting on here for so long. Folks, GlennBakerUSA.com. Glenn with 2 N's. You can see all about him. You can go find his songs. I want to thank you, brother, for coming on tonight.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity. I got to cut my hair, cut my teeth a little bit tonight, have some fun. I've been the interviewer lately, not the interviewee, and it's a lot more fun to be interviewee.
Well, I hope it was fun for you. I hope it was good for you.
Yes, sir. Had a great time.
All right, brother.
Keep doing good things.
We will be in touch some more. And everybody say goodnight to Glenn. thank you for being on. And I hate to say it this way because it's become cliche, but I mean it. Thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for what you are still doing, and for the fact that what was the phrase you used? Never finished, or
Finish this fight.
finish this fight.
Yeah.
There you go.
We ain't done. We ain't done.
There it is. All right,
Gentlemen,
brother.
thank you.
We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
You got it.
Good night. All right, JP, it's you and me.
Uh-oh.
What do you want to talk about?
Nothing particular that I had in mind to talk about other than to say thanks to Glenn for what he's doing for folks out there, and clarify my Cab Scout Raz.
Yes.
Yeah. Some folks may not take kindly, but
right.
Whatever.
Whatever. Too bad. So what?
Yep, exactly.
All right, then what I may do, we may just wrap up a little bit early tonight because I think this was a good show, a lot of content. And when I say heavy, I don't mean heavy by content, heavy with content. So it was a good show tonight. Look up Glenn's site, everybody. And I think we're going to wrap tonight. We've got, guess what? Wednesday and Friday, we got a couple of guests coming on. So I just have to call it tomorrow morning to confirm a couple of them. And some interesting stuff we're going to be talking about. Have any of you heard of the Montauk Project?
No.
A little time travel. Montauk. M-O-N-T-A-U-K, I think it's spelled. I know about this much about it. And so we're going to be talking about that and some other things on Wednesday as well that go along with some of this hidden realm stuff that we've been talking about. So
sounds interesting.
Stay tuned. Not montage. Oh, Montauk. M-O-N. My eyes, Nancy. She typed Montauk. The Montauk Project. Oh, you did type montage. The Montage Project. That's where we take all these little things and we put them all together. And no, the Montauk, I guess it is.
I mean, even Rocky had a montage.
Yeah, that's right. And autocrat does suck. Autocorrect.
Well, they both suck, but yeah.
It's that time of night. I'm turning into a pumpkin. Yeah, I figured, Nancy. All right, Jason, I'm going to let you go, brother, so I can sign off in peace.
All right.
And I will see you, I hope, again on Wednesday.
More than likely.
All right, brother.
All right. Take her easy.
Have a good night. Everybody else, thanks for being here. Wow. This was great. Thank you, Nancy. I'm gonna cue the montage music, says Scott Allen. So good night, all you awesome people, says Susie Q. And great job tonight, says Nancy. That's the one I was looking for. There we go. Thank you, Nancy. All right, all of yous, I want to thank you for being here. Again, Wednesday night, same time. We're going to have a guest. I don't want to say the name yet until I actually confirm it, which I won't be able to do till tomorrow morning. But we'll be talking on Wednesday night, we hope, with him, and been getting some really interesting stuff on this Unseen Realm series that we've been in. And where I've been hitting more of the Old Testament, the biblical stuff, the Elohim and all that, this is somebody who's got a whole different take on some different things. So keep your fingers crossed we get that all put to bed. So everybody, I want to thank you for being here. And I got nothing else to say other than that. So you all have a good night, and we will see you next time. And until then, live long and prosper.